Mother-Daughter Disney podcast. I'm here with my lovely mother.
Hi, I'm Janette.
And we literally just got back from seeing the Snow White live action movie like 15 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. So this is a very raw, like first impressions type podcast. But first, I will go over some like non-spoiler type stuff. And then once we get into like the spoiler review and everything, what we thought, I will put, I'll have my editing self say like where you could skip forward in the episode if you don't want to hear spoilers. So first, let's just get into some background of the movie. The movie was directed by Mark Webb with the screenplay by Aaron Cressida Wilson. The movie mainly stars Rachel Zegler as Snow White, Gal Gadot as the Evil Queen, and Andrew Burnap as Jonathan. And Jonathan is the new love interest for Snow White, based on the prince from the 1937 film. We also have Ansu Kabia as the huntsman and Patrick Page as the voice of the magic mirror. Now, the production of the movie was confirmed in October of 2016, with most of the cast being announced in 2021. Filming began in March 2022 and was primarily filmed in the United Kingdom and finished at the end of July 2022. So the movie was only filmed over the course of a few months, which is actually kind of surprising because I think
considering it was so far away. Okay.
Yeah, because I feel like some movies tend to take way longer to film. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so this one only filmed over the course of a few months. And they said most of the filming was done between March and May, with only like reshoots done in July. So again, most of the movie was filmed within 3 months. Also to note too that the film was actually supposed to be like shot and filmed in 2020, but this was all delayed from COVID because again, 2016 was when it was confirmed. So it took years for them to actually produce this movie. Done. So 4 new songs are introduced in this movie. We have the new opening ensemble song called Good Things Grow. We have Waiting on a Wish, which is a new song for Snow White. This technically replaces I'm Wishing, but I'm Wishing was the original opening song, like when Snow White was by the wishing well. The Evil Queen has a new song called All Is Fair, and there's a new love song for Snow and Jonathan that was actually co-written by Lizzie McAlpine called A Hand Meets a Hand, and to a certain extent this essentially replaces Someday My Prince Will Come. We also have Princess Problems, which is a new song for like Snow and Jonathan that they sing together, and With a Smile and a Song and One Song were not used basically at all. And I thought I would also note as well that there was a lot of controversy over this movie throughout the years, and there's been a lot of controversy for multiple different reasons, but in this podcast we are not actually going to go over any of the controversies since we don't really get into stuff like that on this podcast. But I would encourage you to research all of the controversies if you're interested. I will have my sources for this podcast linked in the description, and they're like, it's in the Wikipedia. If you just go to the Wikipedia and go to controversy, all the controversies are pretty spelled out, honestly. So we're not going to touch upon the controversies, but we will get into the movie now. So again, I will have my editing self slip in now that we're going to talk about the spoilers of the movie itself, where you could skip ahead, although I didn't really actually prep any Disney news, so not really sure where this episode's going. So okay. I guess we'll see.
This is just an impromptu one after the movie.
No, for sure. All right, skip ahead around the 34-26 minute mark so you can skip ahead from the Snow White spoilers into the Disney news. So, all right, so let's get into, I guess, like, what did you think of the movie on your first impression?
I think it was great. It's not my favorite movie. I don't think it's one of those ones that I'd say, oh, I want to watch it over and over and over again. I thought the music was good. I wasn't, like, really floored by the few little extra songs they had, and they were cute, whatever. But I thought they did a really good job. I think that they put the effort in. Let's put it that way. It's not one of these movies that they just slapped together and sent out and said, okay, it's a Disney movie. I think they did put the effort in. So I think it was actually worth watching.
Yeah, I think it's hard because neither of us would say that Snow White is our favorite princess. No. So like just right there, it's hard to watch the movie because as well, I've never really cared for that much for Snow White. Like she's never been my favorite princess. She's not even in like my top 5, honestly. But I will say I did really like the movie overall. Yeah. I thought it was really good. I thought Rachel Zegler did a really great job as Snow White, and I really love Rachel's voice. Like I've seen her in other movies before, and I've always liked the way Rachel's voice sounds when she sings. So I really liked the new song Waiting on a Wish. Like I could see that song being one of my favorite songs moving forward. I would say for the other songs, not as much. I didn't really like All Is Fair, the new Evil Queen song. I thought it was kind of weird, honestly. No. I did kind of like the new love song for Snow and Jonathan. I thought it was kind of cute. And I thought Princess Problems was definitely like a kid's song. Like you could tell as you were listening to it, she's like, oh, this was written for like the kids.
I didn't think of it that way, but yes,
it's one of those things where I think a lot of people tend to, like especially when Inside Out 2 came out, a lot of people were like, oh, this doesn't make sense to have anxiety as a character, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, let's not forget that these movies, their target audience is children.
Yes, the
secondary audience is the adults. Right. So I fully recognize it's like I'm the secondary audience for this movie. And I think Princess Problems was meant for the target audience, which is children. And I thought it was a really cute and fun song as well. So even Good Things Grow, like the opening song, I did think was pretty fun. I liked it. So
well, I thought what was amazing was the animals. I mean, they start off with the cutest little animals at the beginning scene. And the person next to me, as soon as the animals were all there, she was like, oh my what? She was like so excited that the animals were there. And I have to say, they were adorable.
I know.
Okay.
So let's go through the movie a little, not super scene by scene, but I just watched the original 1937 Snow White last night in preparation for this podcast.
I haven't
We could
seen it
talk
in
about
years.
the differences.
Okay.
So let's go over some of the comparison and the differences. And we just we just saw the movies, so it's like some of this is going to really be off the cuff, I would say. But the first thing is that that's the same is that the original Snow White does open with the book, the Once Upon a Time book.
Yes.
So they did the same thing here, but again, they do have all of the CGI animals. Every animal
Oh,
is
they're so cute.
CGI.
They're
None of them are
opening the
real.
book and sitting there and climbing
They're
over
very
everything.
cute.
Really cute.
Yeah, the next, I would say the major difference, of course, is that the casting for Snow White is not a Caucasian person. So instead, her name is Snow White simply because she was born during a snowstorm. Whereas in like the original book, I would say 1937, they describe her as like the skin white as snow, the black hair is ebony, all that
Right.
stuff. So instead, they named her Snow White because she was a gift during a snowstorm, essentially, which I think fits well. I was like, yeah, sounds good to me. You know, and it's like, again, we're in a magical land here. We don't need to expand our imagination that far.
No.
So I thought that was nice. You do see both her parents in the beginning of this movie as well. And just like the live action Cinderella, you watch both of them die within the first 10 minutes of the movie. It's like, goddamn, we're really pushing the parent death here. So.
As I was saying, which I did mention after we saw the movie, is that this theme of here's my cute little parents, they're both going to die off. My mother's going to die first. My father's going to try to do the best he can. He's going to disappear. And I'm going to be stuck with some evil stepmother who's going to make me a servant and keep me locked away. So they've used that theme over and over and over again over the years since
Well, I
this
think
was
also
done.
a lot of these movies were based off other stories,
Yes.
fairy tales, and that's just how the fairy tales.
That's
were
how
written
the fairy
way back
tales
when.
work. I mean, you have to have a fairy
That was
tale.
the core. You know,
Right.
that was the core of fairy tales way back when. So
you can't have the person rise above if they didn't have.
Yeah, if you go back to if we go back to the source material, I mean, like they're just writing from the source material
Right.
to a certain extent.
Right.
But in this movie, we do see that the father is sent away by the new queen, we should say, and to like basically fight for the kingdom, and he ends up being he gets killed, I guess, in action is what is implied basically
Right.
in the fight. So of course, then we just have the evil queen. She kind of becomes a tyrant over the kingdom itself, and Snow is reduced to a scully maid, which is what we see in the 1937 version as well. And the 1937 version opens with the evil queen talking to the magic mirror, like saying who's the fairest of them all. So you have that whole scene. And then the first song in the 1937 is the I'm Wishing, where Snow is at the wishing well singing how she's wishing for Prince basically to come and save her, essentially. Like it boils down to that she's just wishing
'cause
for a
that's the
prince.
idea then.
And
Somebody's
she's
gotta
wishing
come
for
and save
love.
her, right.
Yeah, so we don't have again, there's no wishing well song here, and instead we have the new song called Waiting on a Wish, and that's kind of her singing more about herself, like waiting to see like if she's gonna rise to the person that she thinks she should be, but kind of is too scared to be at the moment because of all the oppression that the evil queen is putting on her in the kingdom, which I don't blame her for. I think that's pretty fair if you think about it. So it's like you've been oppressed most of your life now at this point. So both your parents were killed. So the same thing is the same that she hired the queen, Snow White now is more fair. She hires the huntsman. Oh wait, well before we have that, we have Jonathan. So Jonathan sneaks into the castle to steal food, which is not in the 1937 version, of course. He obviously doesn't know Snow White is the princess because she's dressed as a maid, because that is what she is now in her adult years, or her later teen, early 20s years. And when he gets captured, Snow White tries to show him mercy and kindness, but of course that doesn't go down well. But it is something that is important because again, that's when they had the little meet cute, So Jonathan leaves. It's funny because she was like, tie him to like the castle gates or whatever and like leave him there to die. And I mean, like when Snow goes to untie his hands, I'm like, he was tied by like the loosest knot in the
loosest,
world.
he could've
You're
got
telling me
himself away.
his feet weren't even tied. It was just his hands that were tied on the gate. Like I thought he was going to be like strung up or something like that. And I was like, I guess it is a Disney movie after all.
Yes,
like,
we have to be careful here.
Can't be too graphic.
Yes, we can't. Well, until we get to the dungeon scene with
I guess so, but
with the
yeah.
skeleton. Okay.
Well, we'll get there. Okay, my editing self has realized we actually never did get there, but essentially my mom was referencing this skeleton that's in the dungeons that's like reaching for a cup. That exact scene, essentially of like a skeleton reaching for the cup that's like been passed away in the dungeons, is in the 1937 version. So that's what I meant by like, oh, we'll get there. It's like, oh yeah, it's in the dungeons, but then I realized when we talk about the dungeon scene later on, I never mentioned that again. But yeah, but it was so funny. I was expecting it to be a little darker, but it was just like, oh, he's just like tied to the front gate, no guards watching over him.
Nobody was watching except the queen from the balcony.
I know. So obviously Snow lets him go. And
Right.
then we get to like, then that's when the evil queen is saying, all right, I'm going to hire the huntsman to take Snow into the forest to kill her. And even from the very start, even the 1937 version, the huntsman is like, I don't really want to kill the princess, but
Right.
okay.
Okay, I'll take
Same
her.
thing with the box. She takes the box out. I do like how they put the apples more in the newer version as well, that like her and her parents baked the apples back in the day and that she was going to go apple picking everything. I thought that was kind of cute to tie in the apples more into the story. And the same thing too, when he like tries to kill her, can't do it because he feels bad essentially, which I think is pretty fair. It's like, it's pretty crazy just to kill an innocent person if you think about that. Yeah. And if you think about the evil queen too, like, yes, she is a tyrant, but even in the original 1937 version, the main evil thing about her is just that she doesn't like Snow White because she's prettier than her technically. Like, it all comes down to vanity. Yeah.
That's how vanity is.
Like, in the newer version, they really stress on it's like, oh, beauty comes from within. The 1937 version doesn't do that.
No.
They don't stress beauty comes from within.
No.
The beauty's on the outside.
Right.
Snow
Beauty's on the
happens to
outside.
be
You're the
prettier.
most beautiful one.
Yeah.
Right.
So she's just like, no, I'm killing her because she's the most beautiful one there. So I did like when Snow leaves the huntsman that they still have that big scary scene in the forest, because that was almost like the same as the 1937 version where like the trees are attacking her, like the tree almost eats her and stuff like that. I don't think she falls in water though in the 1937
No,
version.
I don't
think
remember
she ends
any
up
water.
just
No.
Yeah, I think she ends up just falling in a general sense. And then again, when she's in the forest, it's kind of like the reflection of her fear almost. So it's like when she's no longer afraid, then the forest suddenly just turns into this like magical place essentially.
And
so,
all the animals are.
Yep, so all the animals around, so we have the same thing there. I think in the 1937 version, in my opinion, there were way more animals. It was like triple the amount of animals. It was kind of wild when I was watching it.
There were a lot of animals in this one.
Yeah, but I feel like there were even more in the 1937 version. There are a lot of animals. Again, she's kind of like, oh, like, here are all my new friends, essentially. She has a whole scene with them, in the 1937 version. But then she's like, where am I going to sleep? And the bunnies are like, you could sleep with us in the hole in the ground. And she's like, well, I can't sleep in the hole in the ground. I can't sleep with the chipmunks up in the trees. So, I can't sleep in the bird nest. So they end up finding the cottage together. And that's when she goes in. And she's like, wow, she thinks it's like children who live there. She's like, oh my gosh, these children don't have a mother. How sad is that? She's like, so let me clean up after all these children. And then that is when her and the animals do whistle while you work, and her and the animals clean up the whole thing. Now it's funny because this scene, I understand, so in this scene in the newer movie, she does this scene later with the dwarves, but it is funny because in the 1937 version, like, she has the deer do the dishes. The deer is just like licking the dishes. I'm like, that is disgusting. This deer is just licking this dirty dish.
Never would have noticed that. Okay.
And then she tells the deer, it's like, no, don't do that. You put it in the tub to wash it. I'm like, yeah, that's right.
That's right. Don't just
like,
lick
it's
it
kind of
clean.
funny how she's trying to tell the animals, like, this is how you clean. I'm like, I don't think these animals have cleaned a day in their lives.
Well, she was supposed to be, this, ethereal, wonderful, soft personality that loves the animals.
The
loves
same
everybody.
thing too, where she goes upstairs, she sees all of the beds with the names on it, and she falls asleep. And so this is, I would say, another bigger change. Whereas in the 1937 version, the dwarves are leaving work, heading on their way home. And I was telling my mom this in the car as well, that it's often a misconception that the hi ho song is hi ho, we're off to work we go. Where the most of the song in the 1937 version is hi ho, from home we work we go. So it's them actually leaving work and coming home. They do sing off to work we go too later on in the 1937 version, but here they have it both ways. Literally, we have them going off to work, them at work, and then they come home from work. So I did like this scene overall. I thought it was really fun, and it had a lot of like similar like funny things that happens in the 1937 version too. And I think the mines themselves were really pretty, like the way that they did all the mines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And also showing how the dwarves are more magical creatures rather than like human dwarves, so to speak.
Yeah, even when they're in the mine, you see that they're magical.
Yeah, they can
they're
like
not
feel
human.
the mine. Yeah, they can feel the gems in the mine stones and have
their
them
hands
light up.
and different things. They can light the whole thing up. Yeah, they do show you that they're more magical than, because they also say how they're 275 years old.
I think it's 174.
I thought it was 275, and then the other guy kept saying 274.
No,
it was
I think
2 something.
No, I thought it was 1 something. I don't
Okay, we'll have
remember
to go
now.
back and find out, but I'm pretty sure maybe I'm wrong because sometimes I get it
I'm
wrong.
pretty sure it was 174 is what it was. But either way, though, it's still they're magical creatures. Is essentially all it is to say. So I did like the overall scenes. I thought it was pretty fun, and it was fun to see. They kind of introduced all of the dwarves again. The one thing I noticed is that they changed some of the colors of like the caps that they wear. So for instance, in the 1937 version, Bashful is wearing like a teal cap, and in this one he's wearing like a yellow sandy colored cap. And that is confusing because Bashful, Sleepy, and Sneezy all look the same, except for Sleepy is sleeping and Sneezy is sneezing. Otherwise, the three of them kind of look the same, honestly. Yeah. It's like it's hard to tell those three apart specifically because
Doc you can automatically tell.
Doc has the glasses. Happiest is kind of like the chunkiest. So
yes, he's chunky and always has a smile.
Yeah, Dopey is of course the smallest, and Grumpy has like a very distinct look and silhouette, I would say. So the other three, though, they kind of look the same. They kind of
blend.
And it's hard to tell them apart, at least for me. Even in the 1937 version, they were the hardest for me to tell apart. Again, unless Sleepy was actively sleeping or Sneezy was actively sneezing. It was like, I cannot tell them apart. They all look the same. And now it's the same, I feel like, in this version as well, especially when they change their colors a little bit. I'm like, you can't be changing all their colors because for the most part, all of them, their colors kind of stayed the same from the original version. They just changed a few of them around. So I'm not really sure why. Maybe just like the coloring, like the animation was easier. They just wanted more colors in the movie. Who knows why, honestly. So the dwarves get back to their cottage. They realize that someone was sleeping in their bed. They have the whole scene, of course, of like, we know when Snow wakes up, she immediately connects with Dopey, of course, because he's very shy. In the movie, he's not really, in the 1937 version, he's not really shy at all. He's still just kind of goofy, I would say. So in this one, they try and change his personality, being a bit more shy overall and like kind of bully. by his family members rather than being just kind of, a little goofy, I would say overall. So, and then this is when Snow White and the dwarves do Whistle While You Work. I did like this actually better that she does it with the dwarves than with the animals. I think it kind of makes more sense, honestly. And also makes more sense too because they changed it from the fact that she's not just going to join them to be their maid, essentially. Like she's kind of just stopping by. Then she's like, well, can't stay forever because the queen wants to kill me. Right. So gotta keep going. So
yeah, that was pretty quick.
Yeah, so I did like that scene overall. I thought it was really fun. It's also, I can't imagine what it was like filming that too. Because if you think about it, she just filmed that by herself. Like I don't think they filmed with anything. It's like I don't think like there was no actors or anything like that.
No.
And I feel like you could kind of tell in some parts where she was like, oh yeah, I'm standing here by myself. There's no one around me and nothing actually happening around me in real life. Like I'm here by myself.
Yeah, they're gonna put these guys in later.
Yeah, I am acting right now. I must be the actress that I was hired to be. So I think around now, this is when we have the Evil Queen song. And yeah, that was the only song I really didn't like was the Evil Queen song. I don't know. It just didn't do anything for me. So it was funny because my mom had whispered over to me because when she finds out the huntsman didn't actually kill the princess. So in the 1937 version, he puts a pig's heart in the little thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't see the heart in the 1937 version, but this one he put an apple in there.
So
the guy had to have known he was going to be figured out.
He's going to get caught. And he did get caught.
Yeah, he did. And he says like, oh, like something about it's like if you were going to show me mercy, you should show it to Snow White instead, which I thought was really sweet.
Right.
And then she says very briefly like to the dungeons, and then so later on we see that he is in the dungeons.
Well, yeah, but she says I could be evil or I could forgive you. But they're doing this thing, and then all like we were talking about that, how the scene just changed, and all of a sudden all the soldiers are still there. She's still there. Nobody's left. Nobody's done anything. You didn't see him go away.
I think it was supposed to be a different day.
Yes, and he was gone. And I was like, what happened to him?
Again, in this song, she says to the that he's going to go to the dungeons, but it was very.
Yeah, I think it was
though.
Jumpy.
It was very quick. Though,
I don't think a kid would notice that. I just was paying attention.
Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, I definitely think that makes sense. And then that was the only.
Then
song
later on, you see him in the dungeon. So
yeah, but yeah, there was the only song that I feel like I didn't really like that much. Because I feel like it was very much like a stop and sing type of song rather than like moving the plot forward. Because I think we already all knew that the evil queen was evil. So
right, they were just giving her moment.
Yeah, because in the 1937 version, the evil queen does have a song when she puts together the potion. So it's like, and then this time they changed. The song is not the same. The song is combined with like her big All Is Fair type song. So they kind of combined it. Where again, original version, she had like a whole kind of scene and song where she put together the potion. It was like a whole animation that was different. So
I don't remember it.
Yeah, so they just did that a little bit differently was all. So again, Snow White then tries to leave the dwarves because she wants to go find her father because it was kind of hinted to her by the huntsman that the queen lied to her about her dad. So she was like, maybe my dad is still alive. I need to go find him. She leaves. She finds the bandits again, which is like Jonathan and the bandits. They have their whole little thing. The palace guards come to try to find her. Again, she ends up helping them escape the palace guards. So they all then earn their respect for her and everything. And then Jonathan takes a crossbow for her. And it's funny because if this was real life, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that would have killed him or he would have had like no mobility of his arm afterwards for a little bit.
Right.
But then she takes him to the dwarves because Doc's name is Doc. She thinks he's a real doctor.
Fix him.
Turns out Doc is not a real doctor. I didn't think he was a real doctor either. I never thought Doc was a real doctor.
He just looked like a doctor because he had those little spectacles on.
Yeah. He does somehow magically fix Jonathan. We don't see it happen,
he sings
of
the whole thing about how he did a this, and a poultice, which is like a thing to take the infection out, the whole thing. He does like a little thing.
Yeah, and Jonathan just comes out and he's magically fine. And he can move full mobility of his arm.
Yeah, just walks out like there's nothing wrong with him.
That's what I'm saying. In real life, like even if he was healed, it still would have taken some time
for... Just a little stain on his clothes.
Some soreness, whatever.
Yeah.
Then they have their little song too together that is very obvious now that they're kind of falling in love. But Snow still wants to try and find her father. The palace guards come back. Again, none of this is in the 1937 version because Jonathan and the bandits don't exist in that version. So Jonathan leaves. He ends up getting captured. He admits that he's an idiot when he got captured because I was like, yeah, dude, you fell for like such an easy trap, but whatever. And then that's when he gets taken to the dungeons.
Yeah, he was all happy with himself because he said he was being a good guy.
Yeah, because before he was like a criminal,
obviously an idiot when he steps on the trap.
Yeah. So the queen immediately realizes that Jonathan was with Snow because she sees that he has like the necklace that Snow was wearing before that her father had given her. So that's when the evil queen's like, I'm going to do the whole, the old lady type disguise.
Yes, we need to have a talk.
Yes.
We need to, Snow White and I need to have a talk.
Yes. So that's when she disguises herself, does all of that. And then she goes, so I guess it's supposed to be assumed that she has a necklace so she can like track Snow because of the necklace. Otherwise, though, technically we don't actually know.
How does she know how to get to the cottage?
Exactly where
the vultures what tracked her.
Oh, the vultures helped track her? Yeah.
That vulture was tracking her through the animals, through the forest, and that's when he landed on the cottage, and that's where she is.
So yeah, right before that happened, though, the dwarves were like going off to work, right? And Snow was like, all right, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go find my dad now. And the dwarves were like, are you sure? Like, we don't know about this. My mom was saying this. It's like, first of all, what is the economy in this forest? Because the dwarves are mining these gems. Where are the gems going?
That's the first thing I said when we get out of the movie. Where'd all those gems go that they were mining?
Yeah, because in the newer version, it's very clear that the dwarves don't like the humans or the bandits.
Right.
That they're like, oh, they only come here and steal and pillage and stuff like that. So it's clearly that they're not working with the humans ever. So I'm like, well, who are they giving these gems to? It's like, is it just for them? And I thought about that too, even in the original version, being like, what are these gems for? Like, I'm assuming they're trading them or something like that. I'm not really sure.
I mean, they're going to work and coming back with work without any gems in their hands, so they're leaving them at the mine or doing whatever they're doing.
That's a good point too. So
that was, I mean, like I said, a kid would never say that. A kid would never say, what are they doing?
But
with
also,
the gems?
even in this scene too, it's like, well, we got to go to work, Snow. So it's like, are you sure you're going to leave? I'm like, well, you guys work for yourselves. Like, can you not
take the day off?
Can you not take one day off? You know, Palace Guards are trying to kill her. Maybe you should stay with her for the day. Like,
get an awful lot of gems there. I think you'll be okay.
So I don't know. But anyway, they go off to work. Snow is packing her bag, to leave. And that is when the queen comes. So in the original version, she's making a gooseberry pie. That's what she's doing. And she sees her through the window. She actually eats the apple through the window too.
Right.
In the original version as well, the evil queen / old lady, she tricks her into saying that the apple is magical and that if she takes a bite of it, it will grant her a wish. So Snow White has a whole scene where she was like, I wish for my prince to come. I wish for, again, she had the whole someday my prince would come. She's like, I wish for my prince to come. I wish to live happily ever after, all this stuff. And then she takes a bite of the apple. Whereas in this version, the evil queen has the necklace still. So she says like proof that Jonathan got captured. So Snow is like, oh, gotta go rescue him. She's like, well, here's an apple for your journey. And she kind of uses her father against her to say it's
she uses her own
she like manipulates Snow to say it's like, oh, I was always with your father. I supported him. It's like, this is all I can offer you. It's like this apple for sustenance. So Snow takes a bite and then immediately starts to kind of get woozy. And then the evil queen like reveals her plan to her, being like, hee, I killed your father all those years ago, all that stuff, So Snow falls asleep and then basically instantly, and then the dwarves and the animals come and find her. Because I didn't say that. The animals, same thing. Animals realize something was up before Snow did. They go get the dwarves. They all race back together. So, all right. So then in the original version, this is where in the original version, the dwarves, they get there and the evil queen is still there. So they go chasing the evil queen. They have a whole scene running up this hill.
That.
This storm comes and it's all stormy and stuff like that. The evil queen runs up this hill, essentially this like cliff essentially. And there's this big boulder. It's so funny. And I say funny. I respect older animation, of course, but it's very obvious in older animation, like what was the background and what is going to move, because the background is like the cliffs. And then there's this very obvious rock that is clearly going to be moving in animation. And so the evil queen, the dwarves are running up the cliff and she's going to roll this rock basically onto the dwarves to kill them. But it's like, again, it's like a storm. So like the wind, I guess, blows the wrong direction essentially. And the rock lands on her instead and pushes her off the other side of the cliff. And it's presumably that the rock crushed her when she fell off the cliff. And that's low key kind of how like the 1937 version ended.
Amanda had to remind me of that.
So in this version, the queen doesn't happen. So the queen just disappears. It's presumed she just walks back to the castle, I guess. So she goes back to the castle. The dwarves find her. They don't build, the timing here is a lot shorter. So instead of building her like the glass golden coffin, they just put her on a rock. So, but again, I think if she was going to be sleeping longer, they probably would have.
They put a little thing of flowers over her, like a little gazebo.
Yeah, a little gazebo and stuff like that. I guess I would say if she's probably sleeping for longer, they would have built the glass coffin and stuff like that. But she was only sleeping for like half a day. Right. Honestly, it wasn't really that long. So we jump back. Jonathan, long story short, escapes from the dungeon with the huntsman. He comes and finds her. And in this version, it is True Love's Kiss. In the 1937 version, it is First Love's Kiss. So it's just their first kiss. Okay. And so either way, I think, I don't know if it really matters, honestly. But anyway, so he kisses her. She wakes up and she's fine. She realizes that she likes him, but she's also like, we got to go save our kingdom. So they go back and they save the kingdom, essentially. Like all the people are like, oh, there's Snow White. We haven't seen her in years, but we still kind of remember her. They kind of rally behind her.
They all stand behind her.
The queen kind of like taunts her into trying to kill her, but obviously Snow is not going to like kill someone in cold blood like that. But Snow wins the guards, because earlier in the movie, it said that the evil queen turned like the farmers into guards. And I thought that was a weird thing to be like, so these people just like left their families and friends.
Yeah, she turned everybody into an army.
Yeah, I assumed it was because they were under like her spell, sort of, that they didn't have a choice. It's like they were kind of like, and then Snow White breaks it by saying, it's like, don't you remember like who you were? Like, Paul.
She starts telling them,
and like she calls them by their name. It's like, you used to do this and you had a wife and family, and they're like, you're right, I did. So she kind of like breaks the spell, so to speak. I don't know if they're under a spell. That's just
have
what
to be, because otherwise, his wife is in the crowd right behind her. So is the other guy's father.
Yeah,
they look surprised and smile when they say, yes, I remember.
Yeah, it's like the recognition, being like, oh yeah, that's right, I've been under a spell these last, I don't know, maybe 7 years.
Well, the queen is magical.
Yeah, so, and then of course, then everyone's like, oh no, now we're on Snow's side, of course. She goes in, the evil queen runs to the mirror and she's like yelling at the mirror as if this is all the mirror's fault. And then the mirror, the evil queen breaks the mirror kind of shatters and then just like absorbs the evil queen. Like it kind of turns her to stone and she kind of gets absorbed by the mirror itself. And that's kind of where
that was the most modern thing in the movie.
Yeah, I feel like it was one of those things where like if she wasn't going to die on the cliff, if it's like, well, they had to get rid of her
Had to
somehow.
get rid of her somehow because she couldn't stay
Where
there.
else was she gonna go?
I know.
So
I gotta say though, I was telling Amanda, I said she was beautiful. I mean, her
Gal
outfits,
Gadot.
her face,
her costumes
her
are
makeup,
incredible.
everything. That woman was beautiful in that costume.
Yeah, I would say, like, I think her costumes were definitely the best. Her makeup was definitely the best. Like
Halloween's going to be all her.
Yeah, she
this
looked
Halloween.
great. Honestly, I
Where
would
was
say.
it? Where was the year that the other one came out? Who's the one I'm thinking of?
no
One that
idea.
Angelina Jolie played.
Maleficent.
Maleficent. That every once in a while that her costume would come out.
I think people overall like Maleficent better than the Evil Queen. 'cause
Well, let me tell you, this costume's going to be a big one.
Yeah, no. So I
She
definitely
looked beautiful.
Yeah, I definitely liked it. I don't think the Evil Queen is still as popular as a villain though. Is the thing.
Maleficent?
I think Maleficent will always be a more popular villain overall. It's kind of like Maleficent and Ursula are like the two big villains that people tend to really love
Right.
and dress up as a lot. Whereas the Evil Queen not as much. But I did think she had definitely had the best costumes.
The whole costuming in this movie was very upscale. I mean, it was. I mean, the townspeople, the guards, the queen, very upscale costuming.
So again, overall, I really like the change from instead of having the prince to having Jonathan instead, because it makes more sense as well to have an actual like love interest with more of a character.
To come and kiss her, right.
Well, more of a character and more of like involved in the plot, you know? Because in the 1937 version, the prince literally only shows up in the very beginning when he sees Snow White singing into the wishing well, and at the very end.
Right.
But literally, it was like Snow White went into the sleeping, you know, the sleeping, the death-like sleep, I think is what they call her, or something like that, the sleeping death. And then the dwarves build this coffin for her, and they were actually going to bury her, but they realized they were like, no, Snow White is too beautiful to just bury. Let's just keep vigil over her. And they do that for weeks, and then weeks later, the prince hears of a maiden who's like sleeping in the forest, goes and finds her, kisses her, and then that's when she wakes up and she leaves with him. But in that sense too, it's just like the prince really didn't do anything.
No, just showed
he
up.
just showed up twice in this whole movie.
Right.
He did nothing.
How could he possibly love her because he didn't even know her?
Yeah, he didn't even support Snow. So that's why I do like Jonathan's character
Yeah,
a
this
lot.
was
I like
it
how
was
they
a nice
changed it.
storyline with them, at least.
Yeah, I think it made a lot more sense. I also like too how, because again, in the original version, Snow White, like, she's just like, all right, well, goodbye to the dwarves who just took care of me for all this
Left him
time, and
there.
now I'm leaving with the prince.
Right.
But this time the dwarves like come back with her to the village, and I guess it's presumed
They
that
helped.
they were going to
they
join
helped
the village.
save the castle and do everything.
Yeah, and it's also assumed too that Snow and Jonathan do marry at the end. It's like this big white scene of them dancing. You don't see like the wedding ceremony technically, but when I looked it
as
up
they're
online,
zoning in, I honestly thought I was going to see a wedding dress and them getting
well,
married.
she was in a white dress. Though,
She was wearing
so-
all white. They were wearing all white.
Well,
so-
everyone was wearing all white.
Yes, the whole town was wearing white. And there was all these flowers, and that's why
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to be a wedding. But they're really just dancing, so you kind of
Yeah,
get
they're
the
technically
idea
dancing,
that,
but when I looked it up online, it did say that was supposed to be their wedding celebration.
ceremony.
So this is something my mom and I talked about in the car as well, that it feels like there were scenes that were cut from the movie that like things were kind of jumpy. We're like, well, something just happened there, and then it's like now we jump
jumps
to this
to
little
another
part.
scene.
Yeah, like for instance, when they kind of had the little dancing, this happens in the original version too, but now we have the bandits, of course. They have this little dancing scene with the bandits, and she goes up to one of the characters, and first before that, when Jonathan is coming out after he got hit, she's standing very close to one of the other bandits, and it looks like as if they were just talking to each other, but it's like Snow literally never speaks to that character the entire movie. But then later on in the dancing scene, she's talking to a different character, being like, oh wait, don't you have like a crush on like that other person, you know, that I was just talking to before? And so when she says that to him, I was like, we've never seen those two characters interact at all this whole
Right. So
movie.
what makes you?
Yeah,
think
so
that,
clearly
right?
there was like a deleted scene where she
There
had
was
more
also
with the bandits.
one really big fade out scene that I thought was delayed because remember when the screen turns white and then it goes to the castle again?
No, I'm not sure when.
There was one scene where all of a sudden it was a fade, like it wasn't a slow fade out. It was
What was happening in the scene?
Yeah, I forget what was happening in the scene before. I honestly forget. I mean, I thought about it when I saw it, but it actually went to a fade out scene. The screen went white, and you didn't know what was going to happen, and you're waiting, and then it was long enough to say, "What the hell?"
I didn't feel that, so I don't know. What
Okay,
you're
and then
referring
all of
to.
a sudden they showed the dark castle again, and then they were showing what the queen was doing, and I was like, okay, they were going from one thing, like what they were doing, to what the queen was doing, but it just seemed to me that time was like just a fraction of a second longer than it needed to be because I was saying, okay, what's going on?
Well, I did not feel that personally,
Okay,
so
you
I did
didn't
not.
feel that.
I
Okay.
did not think the transitions between scenes were long.
All right, I
but-
thought that one was odd. Okay.
No, that's okay. That's how you felt.
Yeah,
I didn't
just-
notice that one
yeah, just
personally.
caught that one.
But yeah, I noticed the other one with the bandits. So I was
Yeah.
just like, this doesn't really make sense. Or like, we're definitely missing something here. Is
Yeah.
what I would say. Even almost like again in that last scene with the wedding scene, it's like I feel like we just missed something. That's like, how come they're all dressed in white? It's like it's assumed for their wedding that that's why they're all celebrating their wedding.
Let's realize that I was watching this movie with the idea that we were going to talk about it afterwards. I think that if kids are going to see this movie and they go see this movie, they're going to see this movie because it's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and it's funny, and it's cute, and it's fun, and I think that it wouldn't be as noticeable to some people, but yes, there was a choppiness to how they did the scenes.
The other part I thought was kind of funny was that, so Snow White, of course, is based on a German fairy tale, and so randomly they would just say like German words. It was so random. They were really, like Sneezy would see, she was like, well, Gesundheit, and I'm like, where'd that come from? It's like just a sly reminder. It's like, yes, we are in Germany.
Let's remember
everyone.
It's a German movie, a German
I thought that
background.
was funny. And then when the bandits are leaving the dwarves' cottage, one of the bandits is holding all these pretzels in his arms, and I was kind of like, where'd those pretzels come from?
I hear Amanda say, look at those pretzels.
But it was
He's
so
got an armload of pretzels.
But it was so obvious. I'm like, there's these German pretzels in this man's hand. Like, where did those pretzels come from? Who made those pretzels? Like, they came out of nowhere. And it's just like, some of this is so funny sometimes if you're like watching a bit too closely. You're just like, wait, this doesn't make any sense.
He said thank you to everybody. Thank you for having us. And he's running out with the pretzels.
All right. So what do you think? Who do you think was your favorite character in the movie? I would say Snow White. I always like the protagonist.
I gotta say that Snow White, because she was just the perfect character.
Yeah.
I did like the evil queen. I gotta tell you.
Yeah.
She was evil. She was miserable. But I have to say Snow White. I mean, she just, and it's just that character that you have to watch her, and she's so good, and she goes after everybody, and I mean, how could you not? I actually like Dopey too. He was my second favorite character.
No, I like Snow too, because I think over the whole movie you kind of watch her find her own courage too, how she was like broken down when her parents had died, and how she's a little bit nervous and scared, but then like again when the royal palace guards are trying to attack the bandits, how she like musters up the courage for that, musters up the courage for other things in the movie. So you kind of see her develop too, which I thought was really great to see.
I think that's really good, because people, like you said, are afraid. A lot of times everybody's afraid to go ahead to try to be the one to do something, worried about what's going to happen. So I think that's a good thing that through the movie she kind of stumbles and falls and then gets up and does it again, and I
like too how the whole time she was like, oh, the bandits are fighting in the name of my father. She was like, oh, my father can fix the kingdom, my father can do this, until she realized like, wait, I can do this too. So she kind of realized,
can I be the girl my father wanted me to be?
Which I really like that as well, that like she uses the strength from her parents in herself, and then kind of like pulls herself forward.
Because when she was young, that's all they kept telling her: you're brave, you're kind, you're wonderful, you're fair, and they kept reminding her that that's what she was. And as a parent, that's what you want to do. You want your kids to understand that they are good people, that they have that capability, and that's what her parents tried to instill in her. And obviously, when you're down, everybody's kicking you when you're down. I mean, it's kind of hard to remember that. But like I said, as a character, she does develop, and she does come out and save the day.
I think my favorite song probably is the new song "Waiting on a Wish." I really like that song a lot too. But I've always liked the "Whistle While You Work" song as well. So I like that song as well. I thought that scene was really fun too. So I will say it's funny because I don't really like whistling, and I can't whistle myself. So
I'm not good at
whistling. But I do think the song is kind of fun though. Did you have a favorite song?
I'm trying to think. There was one favorite song, and now I can't remember which one it was. When you were talking about the different songs, I said, "Oh, I like that song." Can't remember which one it was. But anyway, that happened to me. It goes in one ear and right out the other.
The songs are all good. So I probably will listen to the songs again. And then, did you have any favorite scenes or any favorite moments? I think I really actually liked the dwarves in the mine scene because it was so colorful and so cool. Like it was a very the mine was very dark, but the gems were very bright in that sense. So it was a really good contrast of colors, and I thought the way
that's what they try to do in the mine train ride when they come up with the gems.
It was really pretty that scene, the way that they contrasted the colors and everything.
Because Dopey was my second favorite character. I like the scene where they make fun of him and the bowl lands on his head and he's embarrassed and he goes outside and she sits and talks to him.
Oh yeah, and she helps him.
That was my
feel
favorite
better.
scene.
Yes. No, it was very sweet too.
Yeah, I think as a mother, that's what got me, is that he just seems younger than all the other dwarfs.
Yeah.
And they make fun of him and he just feels bad, and that's when he goes outside and she goes out, sits down and talks to him.
Yeah, and it kind of gives him his own courage as well to like kind of stand up for himself
that was like
himself,
my favorite
which
scene.
I like. So no, yeah, overall I like the movie. So
overall as a movie,
it
was very good. I think they did step up. They didn't just slap it together. I think they did a good job.
I think all the live action so far have been pretty good, honestly, especially the princess live action movies. They've all been pretty good.
It was so funny because at the end we were laughing because the movie theater, everybody kind of got up when the movie ended and left. And of course we were sitting there because I watched the credits. I have to say.
Well, it was still like the colorful credits, like before they go to the rolling credits, it was still like going through like,
it was beautiful. I mean, the animals were all in there, the birds, the detail.
Yeah, they had all this like art, like
the artwork was beautiful. I was enjoying all the colorful artwork, and they put all the fluorescent lights on.
Yeah, they turn on the lights. in this
Okay, they're
movie.
kind of telling us, okay, there is no end thing after this credits.
no.
Get the hell out now.
No end credit scene. Time for you people to leave.
Yes, time for you to get out. Us and the people next to us were the last ones out of the theater.
Yeah, which is honestly so funny.
Yes,
So.
and the credits weren't even halfway done yet. But like I said, I think it was enjoyable. It was a very enjoyable movie. I don't think I'd go back and see it a second time, but I think that as a movie, it was enjoyable.
Yeah, it was entertaining.
Yes.
Well, let's do a little bit of Disney news now. So we don't have much Disney news. I think the first thing is that Blizzard Beach is currently celebrating its anniversary year.
Oh, wow.
So because of that, it has been very packed is what I've been hearing. So everyone's saying like everything is packed. If you want to rent like one of the gazebos or like one of the umbrellas or something like that, it's actually kind of hard if you haven't booked it in advance.
Oh, wow.
So if you're looking to go to Blizzard Beach this summer, I would probably suggest booking things in advance essentially because, sorry, I'm just reading.
Well, I think it's also, aren't they giving you a free Blizzard Beach day when you show up?
I think that there is that too.
So that means
the
that
day
during
of.
when people are starting to check in, they're going right to Blizzard Beach, figuring they get a free day at a park.
Mm-hmm.
So that's bringing in a lot of people.
Some other news is that Peekaboo at Disney's Swan and Dolphin Resort is being permanently closed to make way for a new game room experience. So it's saying it's going to be Lagoon Games, Lanes, and Eats, and it's being described as an all-new innovative game room experience.
Wow.
Not really sure what that's going to be. So that
the
I guess
whole
that will be
Swan
fun.
Hotel has all been redone from what I just saw.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well.
Well, their rooms have been redone.
Yeah, there's been a lot more news as well for the Disneyland 70th celebration as well. That's starting on May 16th. So again, they've offered new dining packages. So there's going to be a paint the night dining package that is going to be an all-in-one meal package that comes with you can do the painting and stuff like that.
Right.
There's also the parade, of course, between. There's going to be food options as well, and you can start getting reservations. They're also doing a Donald's Tales of Adventure dinner buffet at Storytellers Cafe. This will be a new dining character experience as well with Donald Duck and Daisy Duck, and it says other friends and invited guests. They'll have other food there as well. And Docking Bay 7 Food and Cargo Nighttime Gathering, which is at Galaxy's Edge. So it says that they are doing a nighttime spectacular Fire of the Rising Moons show, which I think is interesting too. So I wonder what that is going to entail. So they don't do any of those fun shows in Hollywood Studios for Galaxy's Edge, but I don't know. So sad times we do not get that in Galaxy's Edge. There has been some rope. Oh, so they are changing how they are doing a rope drop in Magic Kingdom. It's not clear if they're doing this for other parks, but it's just for Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
So if you qualify for the early theme park entry, which is basically if you're staying at one of the Disney resorts, essentially, you are able to. So before you could enter the parks early for early rope drop, and then you would just stand by the rope, before Fantasyland essentially, and then when the park actually opened, then they would drop the rope and everyone would run to the ride.
Fantasyland or
Now they are going to let people to start lining up for the ride. So for instance, now it's you will line up. Let's say you want to do Peter Pan. As soon as you get into the park, you can run to Peter Pan and wait online.
And they're allowing you to come in at 7:30.
Yeah, so you won't be able to get onto Peter Pan until the park opens at 8:30, whatever the early thing
is the early entry. So you can go in at 7:30, get online, and wait till 8:30 to get.
Yeah, so then you can wait online in the queue in itself. So this is actually how Disneyland Paris does it as well. Because when I did early entry in Disneyland Paris, that's how it was. People I went to Ratatouille Adventure or Ratatouille's Adventure, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. Oh my goodness, it's called something different in Paris, but I have no idea. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, same thing. Everyone lines up in the queue itself, and then when the park, then when 8:30 hits and the park officially opens, then people were I kid you not, lined up in front of the ride vehicles. That's how lined up you are. And then as soon as it's open, they open the gates and you get on the ride. That's how much it was for Disneyland Paris. I don't know what it's going to be like for Magic Kingdom, though that will be very interesting what it will be. But people were saying that when rope drop did happen the other day, the line for Tron was very, very long. So if you're thinking of rope dropping Tron, I would still suggest either getting there very early or doing a lightning lane, because apparently that is one of the top ones. So it seems like this is only for Magic Kingdom at the time. So I'll be curious to see if they bring it to the other parks. I guess maybe they're test running it.
Will eliminate the mad dash.
Yeah.
That when they take that rope down, when they start from one side to the other, the people from one side, as that rope's coming down, are dashing like you can't believe.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's helps with crowd control.
Yes, crowd control.
So,
that's what I think.
So I definitely think that's a good thing in the overall sense.
People come in at 7:30 and just walk in and keep on walking.
Yeah,
as opposed
and then they will get on the line.
Jammed up.
Yeah, that they want to be on anyway. Right. So, all right, there's been some new details for the new Lion King attraction that's coming to Disney Adventure World at Disneyland Paris. So previously, Disneyland Paris has the two parks. They had Walt Disney Studios and Disneyland Paris. They are renaming Walt Disney Studios to Disney Adventure World, which I think is kind of funny. But they're renaming the park essentially. And this new attraction is basically going to be a log flume type ride that is based all around Animal Kingdom. This is the first ride ever for the Lion King. Oh, sorry, for Animal Kingdom. That's based around the Lion King. Sorry about that. Yeah, this is the first ride for the Lion King as well. I heard a lot of people saying that they're sad that Disneyland Paris is getting the Lion King ride. In my opinion, having been to Walt Disney Studios and now called Disney Adventure World, I think it makes sense. First of all, that is probably one of the worst parks. is very small.
Needs a new ride.
It does. It's very small. Like the real estate of like where you walk, so to speak, is much smaller in comparison to other parks, especially in comparison to Disneyland Paris. It's like a quarter of the size. The lands are all much like they're squished together. They're much closer together. And overall, there's a lot less to do in that park. I also think that park has the real estate for it. Like the land around that park, they actually have the space to fit something big and gigantic
extra.
like this. Okay. And I think also it's always great for them to add more stuff to that park. So I think it just draws people in general more to Disneyland Paris. So again, I think it's always a good thing to add things like this because again, they could always bring it to the other parks in the future.
Well, that's it. They'll test it out there. And if they think it's a real big draw, they'll put it someplace.
Yeah. And low key, I think it's kind of going to be just like Tiana's Bayou Adventure, just themed to the Lion King is what it kind of seems like. It's not very clear exactly what the storyline is going to be or anything like that, or like what the ride itself is going to look like. But based on some of the concept art and things that we're seeing, I have a feeling it's basically Splash Mountain, but it's just Lion King themed. So it's still kind of exciting though that they are getting that ride as well. So all right, I guess we can wrap that up. Oh, I guess the other big Disney news is that Coco and Encanto have been confirmed to get sequels. So that's also exciting too. So we'll definitely get a Coco 2 and an Encanto 2. It's funny because a lot of people are saying like, is Coco, because Coco's his grandmother, and they're like, is she going to come back to life? And I'm like, let's not forget, guys, he goes to the land of the dead.
I know, he goes to the land of the dead.
I'm assuming he's going to go to the land of the dead and maybe see
she's
Coco
gonna She's going to have a role, let's put it that way.
It's
She's
like,
not coming back to life.
I'm not too concerned about the fact that she had passed away in the last movie.
Yes.
So it's like this movie, literally the whole last movie mainly took place in the afterlife.
Right, it has to do with all the people who are in the afterlife.
For sure.
She'll have a role.
All right, let's do some Disney birthdays. First up, we have two personal birthdays. First up on March 26th is my friend Ariana's birthday. So happy birthday to Ariana. And then on March 30th is my cousin's birthday, Olivia. So happy birthday to Olivia as well. And then this is where we have our Disney memories. Do you have a Disney memory for today's podcast?
Disney memory. I think just the Disney memory is probably trying to remember Snow White.
Just attempting to remember in general
my
sense.
memories are like trying to, I don't think I have another memory that I can, like usually when you say Disney memory, all these memories flash through my mind. Right now, the only thing that flashes through my mind is trying to remember what the original Snow White was like. Because like I said, when I first saw it, I didn't see it. I mean, it was way before even I was born. So by the time I saw it and was old enough to see it, it was cute when I saw it, but I'm not so sure that I was like, oh my God, Snow White, Snow White. I was never a big Snow White fan. It wasn't like as soon as I saw the movie, I became one of these kids who just loved Snow White, the princess, and this whole idea of the prince coming to kiss her and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, like the prince coming to save her. Yeah.
Save her, yeah. So that's the whole idea, is that I don't think I was ever that kind of Snow White. So when you say memory, my mind is trying to get back to all those memories of seeing Snow White. I don't even remember seeing Snow White the first time, obviously. But just knowing that Snow White was around, I remember more when the other movies started coming out. That would keep my memories.
Yeah. So my memory, when I was in Disneyland Paris, I went on the Snow White's Scary Adventures ride in Disneyland Paris, which that ride is no longer in Magic Kingdom, but it was way back when. So when I was there, it's like, well, I want to go on it because I haven't seen it in so long. I think it is still in Disneyland, though, if you're in Disneyland.
Is it? Okay.
I'm pretty sure it is. So I remember when I was going on it, though, it tells the story of Snow White, obviously, but I thought it was really funny. I think it's in my recording of it, too, because I recorded the ride the first time I went on it, was that Snow White takes the apple, she falls asleep. Then there's just like this scene with like, you just see the dwarves kind of looking at the queen. And at the time I hadn't seen the movie, so now I realized there was the dwarves chasing the queen up the hill. But literally going to the next room and everything was just happy. And I'm like, wait, what just happened? Like, we just went from like Snow White falling asleep to now suddenly everything is fine.
Queen's dead.
There was no transition at all. Like the ride,
hooray, the queen is dead.
Yeah, the ride had no transition whatsoever though. Like she just jumped scenes,
from one
and I
to
thought it was
another.
very confusing. I was just like, as someone who hasn't seen the movie in a long time, I'm like, what just happened? And even now thinking back to it, I'm like, it still was a very jump cut scene. They just jumped to the end and said that was it, and here we are at the end of the ride. But it was still fun to go on that ride though. And again, I'm pretty sure it's still in Disneyland in California, and it is still in Disneyland Paris at the very least. So it was fun. But thank you everyone for listening to this week's episode of the podcast. Let us know on our Instagram, Almost Amanda X, if you're going to go see the live action Snow White, what you thought of it, what you thought of the characters and the new songs and the changes that they made from the 1937 version. We would love to hear your thoughts. Also, make sure you give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or leave a comment down below on our dedicated YouTube channel as well. But until then, we will see you all